Get a drill.
Freedom is very fragile. It's more fragile when we don't know the truth. You're about to be part of FramersView, where truth is the foundation of every day's program. Join us live every weekday right here on Rumble at 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, here's Neil Frame on FramersView.
Good morning, good afternoon, welcome to FramersView. It is a Friday. Welcome to it because you made it. You made it through the whole week, and here we are at the end of the week. It's Friday, and we're about to begin the week of the 250 celebration of America. This is a big deal. Everybody, is excited about it, except for the haters. We got haters. Just in case you wondered, we definitely have haters, and I got some stuff to show you today, man. It's crazy. Everybody was doing fine. Everybody was calm when we had a president that did nothing, knew nothing, couldn't accomplish anything, had everybody else doing things for him because he couldn't do anything. That would be a guy called Joe Biden. And, what can I tell you? Here we are. Having a guy that's doing the job, getting the job done, wakes up every morning. Well, I'm not sure he wakes up. He just is there all the time. And this is the greatest example, I think, of how we've put ourselves into this special spot where people just can't accept the fact that he's a winner. And it's going to continue like that. So, it's palpable what this hate is. It's in the party. It's in the public. And who's to blame for this? Who is to blame for this nonsense? And I think the answer is obvious to everybody that watches this show. It's the freaking press. Because they don't ever throw up a question about what these things are. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show it. The very first video that I show you is going to be an example of somebody that's a feckless press person that's talking to somebody that's a complete whack job, and you'll know her. And this is it is just an example. It's an ongoing example of where we are today. So, like I said, we're going into the 250 celebration. It's a big deal. 250 years. There's a lot of countries. There's a lot of establishments. There's a lot of things that's happened in the world that didn't last anywhere near 250 years. And yes, we're a little snippet of time when you compare it to Europe, England especially, and what happened with England and where we are today with them, the upheaval that they're experiencing right now, which is insane. These are the things that are happening. And okay, so where will we go from here? And the answer is, I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. So we'll find out. We'll find out. But anyway, so the Dems are in this damp, dark corner, if you will, that honestly, there's 1,000-mile lefties that are going to keep them in this dark tunnel, in this dark corner. They're going to keep pushing and pushing and keeping them back. And when I say that, they are becoming powerful. But it's not powerful with everybody that's off of the eastern seaboard and the western coast. The rest of the people, even though there's little snippets of areas, and a little snippet, of course, is Chicago, but most people look at this and go, what are you doing? What nonsense is this? So we'll find out. We'll determine that as we go on. We will determine that. So, I did a search on something. I heard a story. It was, you know how you'll hear a story and you heard it, but you didn't really hear it, and that story is hanging in your mind. And of course, with my show and what I do in my show, I try to be aware, and then I got to go find it. So I went to my good friend Grok. Grok and I partied back, in school days, and we were always. That's a different Grok. Oh, this Grok is the one that gives me information, and it's funny. I did another Grok that I'll talk about later on, but we're gonna talk about the Grok thing because it's about the hate. It's about we can't have Trump win. This is really a real deal. The Trump can't win group. They can't let him win because if he does, they're going to have 8 years of J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, and then 8 years of one of the other two, and then 8 years of another person. And all of a sudden, you got 24 years of a Republican in the party if they let Trump win. Because if Trump wins and everybody realizes, oh, he did cut taxes. Oh, wait a minute. I do have more money in my bank because every week when my taxes are taken out of my check, it's less than it was. Oh, I'm a restaurant a wait person, and I've got more money than I used to because when I reported part of the tips, when I reported my tips and had to pay tax on it, I had to pay extra on that, and I don't have to anymore. And then Iran gets settled, and they don't have any control over the strait anymore, and Trump wins, and Trump keeps it that way. They can't have that happen. They just can't. So as this goes on and Trump keeps winning, sooner or later, people are going to realize that this isn't real life, what the Dems are saying. When they say the economy's in the trash, when Hakeem Jeffries says that the Dems are going to take over, he thinks he's going to be the Speaker of the House. Maybe he will be. Maybe the Dems win. But if there's ever been a time where there's the Republican Party in office and the chances of them keeping the midterms with power in the House and the Senate, this is probably our biggest opportunity. But I can't help with that, except for say, you got to vote. Be out there. Please be out there. Vote. Tell your friends. So I want to show you this. This is about the World Cup. Now you would think, well, what does the World Cup have to do with any of this? It's about the winning. And as I said, Trump cannot have winners because if he does, it's a problem for the Dems. So here's the story. I said, this is a story that I said, who said yesterday that the success of the World Cup is a problem for the U.S.? Well, it corrected me. I love that. I love that. It corrected me. No one said that exactly. But a Politico article from yesterday, June 25th, has the closest match. Its headline is, Democrats grapple uncomfortably with World Cup success. And the subhead says, a logically smooth tournament poses a problem for Trump critics. This is according to Politico. Guess what? They are not a right-wing group. The piece notes that the tournament's strong start with packed stadiums and a few issues has been awkward for Democrats who criticized the Trump administration's preparations beforehand. One strategist, Rob Flattery, said there was some liberal wish casting that this would maybe be a disaster to sort out, stick it to Trump. It hasn't happened. So it's more about political optics, than anyone literally calling World Cup success bad for the country. They can't stand it. This is just another roll down the hill of Trump's winning and we got to cover it up. How do we do that? Really, that's their problem. And by the way, speaking of down the hill, I forgot to mention this when I started the show. So last night, we got a windstorm that I'd have to think back, and hailstorm. We'd have to think back a long time to come up with it. I walked out this morning. There's hail stacked up 3 to 4 inches. It hasn't melted since like 9-10 o'clock last night. There's debris that's come through off the road down into our yard. We've got a big field as part of our yard, so to speak, and it just piled up. A big mess. And man, and who's going to win on that? Well, it'll be me, because I'll have to clean all this up. But anyway, winners can't have winners. Trump, first of all, how in the world did Trump win? Really? Do we want to go there? Well, this lady and this person that's interviewing her are the prime example of denial and can't let win. And watch, because there's something you might not catch in this video. Watch this.
Part of the reason that I left is I never in a million years thought we would put a convicted felon who tried to start an insurrection back in office. Right. How did that happen? I don't think it happened. I think Kamala won. I do.
Interesting.
And I think that we're going to find all this out. It's going to come out. And it's I'm not the first person to say this. There are all these researchers who are saying it. I read it online again today. And, the Elon Musk of it all, what did he do for Donald that was able to give him back all that he gave him back? What did he do, you think, for the Donald in that election?
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, especially now that he won.
Well, really? That he won? And the think about this. They're saying, well, she said, Rosie O'Donnell said, there's people that are saying that Trump didn't win. There's articles about that. Yeah, I don't think he really won. I think Kamala won. Isn't that the exact thing that was just crushing Trump? That he even said that he won the election, that he said there was a question about the voting. And now you got, and of course, Acosta, interesting, he said. Interesting? Really? Why didn't you say, wait a minute, aren't you the one or one of them that said, Trump tried to say that he won the election, and that's all BS. I mean, they put a lady in prison for that here in Colorado, that she was trying to find the truth. I'm first one to admit she did some stuff she probably shouldn't have done, but it shouldn't have put her in prison for, I think it was going to be 10 or 15 years, because she wanted the truth. And she was an election official out in, I think it was Eagle, Colorado, which is close to Vail. And nobody knows the truth on 2020, and it's over. And the beauty is Trump is overseeing the World Cup, Olympics, 250. By the way, on Monday, my show episode number is 250 to start the 250 week. I mean, and I didn't plan that. That happens. So I don't think you're gonna see a time. There's not going to be a place where people are going to accept that Trump has done a good job. But this insanity of just keep pushing this back and not accepting that he is doing good things for America is disappointing, I guess, would be one way to put it. Another way would be hurting the fabric of America. I've struggled with trying to understand what are they really trying to accomplish other than hate, which we understand. And of course, you've got the hate of Trump, and then you've got the people that can't stand anybody, getting arrested and being deported. But that's the silly nonsense. You can't arrest these people. You can't put them in jail. This congresswoman that was pushing the security people where was that? Oh, it was in New Jersey. To get into the ICE center, and they're going to try her, and she's trying to get that case dropped, but she was pushing on the federal agents. And because we can't have anybody get deported, we can't have anybody getting picked up. Nobody's ever guilty of anything. I got this story. My wife, who's one of my show prep people, not really, but she sees stuff on news that she calls down to my studio and says, "Hey, did you hear this? This is going to blow you away. This just happened like maybe 5 minutes before the show started." And here's what it is. Palisades Fire. That's the fire in California. That's the massive fire that went on for a long time, burned thousands of homes down. And part of it was because there were no water sources. The hydrants were empty. They were all what we call black in the fire service. And there were no water sources, and the fire just went on. There's nothing they could do. Now, I will tell you this. Once it gets out of control, Palisades, when it first started, they put it out. And then they didn't have water to keep pouring on it for days afterwards, and it restarted. So, mistrial on the Palisades fire. Mistrial. 10 said this person that started the fire was not guilty. 2 said he was guilty. So it's a mistrial. They're going to try it again. And my point of this is how did 10 people, they know the guy did it. They know that he started the fire, but they're now saying he's not guilty because the fire people, the fire departments, didn't get it wet enough to keep it from restarting. Okay, restarting what? Would be the question, right? What did he restart? The answer is, or what restarted? It was the fire. And how was the fire there? Well, that guy started the fire. So whether it restarted or not, the guy is still guilty of starting the fire. Ten said not guilty. 2 said guilty. I wrote that down. It's in ink. You can't erase it because it's a fact. Where do we go from here? How is it for them to say, well, he's not guilty because it restarted and the fire department didn't do enough to keep it from going? Okay, let's blame the fire department. But what about water? That's a problem. Generally speaking, fire is put out with water, or fire is put out with a bulldozer going through and doing 4 tracks of a great big blade on a D9 dozer so that the fire doesn't jump and keep going. But they're not going to allow that. because you might have to knock down trees and knock out houses to be able to stop the fire. But it's the fireman's fault. Yep. That's where we are today. Man. So I just thought I'd bring that up because it just came out as a story. So here we are. We've got Rosie saying that Kamala won the deal and she left the country because Trump became president. And I hate Trump, which is, of course, what everybody else that's on the Democrat side says. I hate Trump. They hate winners. You know, we used to hate losers, not who hate. That isn't right. But a loser is somebody that murders somebody. A loser is somebody that rapes somebody. A loser is somebody that abuses a child. That's a loser. That's a disgusting loser. But when Trump does what he's done and the success that he's had, and they can't stand it, that's craziness. So Hakeem Jeffries gets the question. What are you going to do with this mess of a party that you've got? I mean, if he were to be the Speaker of the House, how would he ever herd in these lunatics? How do you herd those cats? How do you accomplish that? And he's at least the leader of the Democrat Party right now. And what are you going to do with this? So watch this story. This is interesting how he answers it.
My question is how you're going to work with some of these folks. I want to just read you. This is from the Wall Street Journal. This is Chevalier, who, as you know, just won, was the leader of the anti-Israel protests at Columbia University after the 2023 Hamas massacre. She was for Hamas, they write. She called for abolishing police, prisons, and borders. She called Joe Biden a rapist and a war criminal, and said that the U.S. Is occupied Native American land and called the country a effing disgrace, and also favors seizing private property. What do you make of that?
Her views are clearly not my views, and that should be obvious to everyone. In terms of what brings Democrats together, listen, we believe that we've got to drive down the high cost of living.
So it's instantly, instead of answering the question, what are you going to do with this? We have to knock down the cost of living. That story is getting really old. And the reason it's getting old is everything's dropping. We're 70 some bucks on oil. We've got food prices going down in the grocery stores. Not dramatically, but it's going down. It takes time. The food chain and the travel chain and all of the things that happens. It's just, think about this. If you're Costco, you're going through gas fast at Costco. So they're going to refill with the cheaper gas. If you're a small gas station in the middle of a neighborhood that goes through, 5,000 gallons of gas a day, and they've got a 40,000 gallon tank, it takes time for them to go through that gas before they refill it with the cheaper gas. And of course, until they've got the cheaper gas, they can't drop the price because they'll lose money. It's capitalism. But it'll happen. And Trump's winning that battle. So he goes, instead of saying, well, he did say, I don't agree with what they're saying, which is, what else would he say about that? And how is he doesn't have an answer because there isn't one. Because these people are becoming more and more strong. They get stronger every day because the Democrats that are the common sense people are scared to death to disagree with this thing. So there's another lady out there who was a congressperson, who is a former one now, who is really happy the socialists are taking over. When they had the squad, the plus one was Cori Bush. She's from St. Louis, a complete whack job. And so she's being interviewed at CNN. CNN wants to have some answers. With Cori Bush, she's irrelevant. But watch this.
Congresswoman, good to have you tonight. First, what's your reaction, your response to what you just heard there from Andrew Yang about the impact these candidates will have on the party at large?
It's time. It's time for us to have as diverse of a caucus as the people. So many of us have been doing this work for a long time. It's great to have friends. It's great to have more colleagues. It's great to have people coming in so that we can build this group of us who truly believe that all people deserve to thrive, not just survive, and that we pave the way for that we create that right now. It shouldn't be lost on people that people are running for these seats and that they are actually winning. And what is so wrong with having people who truly believe that can happen, because that we have people in our districts who believe the same as we do.
Wow. I'm not sure what exactly she was really saying there, but clearly she supports, believes, trusts in these three women that got in New York. And it's not just, we keep talking about New York. Everybody does because of the recent experiences. But the fact is that it's happening in Seattle, it's happening in Austin, it's happening in Chicago, it's happening in other places. I think Montana had some wacko that just got in. Of course, that's probably in Big Sky area where all the showbiz people are, and they're going to vote him or her in. That's where the problem is. That's why I keep saying, vote, vote, vote. Get your votes out. Vote and vote often, like Chicago. Vote and tell your friends. Talk to your friends. I've said it many times. I don't care if you vote Democrat or Republican. I care if you're knowledgeable about what's really going on and you vote based on your knowledge. Knowledge is power. And if you don't know what's really happening, then we have a problem. The Dems, if you were to watch CNN, MS Now, and the three major broadcast networks, you wouldn't know most of the stuff that's going on. They spend minuscule moments on those stories. And you can't really do ABC, CBS, and NBC as part of that issue because they do the nightly news. They have their little news stories, for a half an hour. And, most people don't watch that. So the chances of hearing a story that's 10 seconds long is pretty minimal. But then the people that watch CNN and MS Now and Fox and Newsmax and go to websites, News Nation, which is getting a lot of attention recently, when those people are showing a story that's different, to be able to create the story for people to be able to see that and go, wait a minute, that's not what CNN said, or that's not what MS Now said. That's not what Joe Scarborough said. Then go to Grok, ask a question. You don't even have to type into Google anymore. Grok will help you out. And so, and there's no total answers on that. I'll share that with you next Monday. It's hilarious. I went through a discussion with Grok, and Grok was a little embarrassed, but it's okay because she knew the history. She just didn't mention some stuff that I asked about. And was that intentional? I don't know. There's no way for me to know because I haven't seen how the AI was developed. But we'll talk about that on Monday. So anyway, that's Cori Bush being so happy that socialists are getting the power. And we're getting more and more of those people. We have to be worried about that. And then you've got the issue of climate change and pushing agendas that are wearing out. Because we all know that everybody's now starting to accept the fact that this climate change story is just a line of bull. It's more and more and more people finally admitting that this was a great big money grab by Al Gore and all the people that followed him. And I know you don't believe that or don't want to believe it. I get that. You don't want to believe some things. But Watch this. This is a congressman talking about climate change and other things. We'll cover it afterwards here.
We are in a tremendous climate crisis right now that we've never seen before, largely by our own doing, by releasing carbon and fossil fuels into the air for an extended period of time. And so, we have to champion a whole bunch of different policies to really mitigate the impacts of climate change. The electrification of our fleet systems, for example, across our federal government and even local government here, like the city of Las Cruces. The electrification of residential developments, the electrification of commercial and municipal development, so that we are limiting the use of natural gas and other fossil fuels and carbon-based fuels and replacing them with electric.
Wow. So we got to electrify things. Let's see. Tesla sales are down. All of the other vehicle sales are not doing well. They're selling, but it's not like everybody thought it was going to be. The electrification, at the same time they're saying that, they're all bitching about the energy companies charging so much money. Has anybody thought about that? That's saying electrify everything? The only thing we ought to electrify are some of the murderers that came into our country. But that whole comment, electrify this, electrify that, and just ignoring the fact that, and New Jersey's a good example. It's one of the highest cost of power generation in the country, and the cost of bills. My bill's gone through the roof, and everything's is LED here. Every single light in my studio, LED. I've got a series of lights that are lighting up the studio. It's all LED. It's averaging about, I calculated it out. It was like 22 or 23 watts for all of this lighting, everything. I've cut everything down. My entire house is LED. And yeah, my electric bill went down, but it's still huge. But he says we got to electrify everything. Doesn't make sense. And you just, nobody goes and says, well, wait a minute. What I'm just saying. Why are you saying electrify everything when the power grid is costing everybody so much money? When you're having a problem with the fact that the data centers are going to be using electricity because it costs more money for you then. And then you're going to go and plug in your friggin' car? Really? Is that where we're going with this? That's just stupid. That's just plain old unadulterated stupid. So, you need to have advocates to keep that kind of a story going. You have to keep pushing and hoping that people are going to buy into it. Hoping that people, I just talked to a friend of mine. This has happened 2 or 3 times in this neighborhood. This has been Tesla Central where I live. Everybody went out and bought a Tesla. Now everybody's got a Rivian, and everybody's got an Ioniq, and everybody's got this and that. So I ran into a friend of mine that was driving a gas car, and he's been driving electric. And I said, I thought you went electric. Yeah, I did. Man, I was going through brakes like crazy. And, I'm worried about my car in the garage plugged in. And I'm not really saving any money, because when I plug into my house or I go to a supercharger, it says it's costing me as much as gas does. So why would I have this ultra heavy car that goes through tires and gas like crazy? Because you go through tires because of the weight of the car. Why would I do that when I could just buy a gas car and I can drive as far as I want to, and gas stations are everywhere? That's an electric guy. Came to his senses. So you got to keep pushing it. And all of those heroes that push these stories are starting to be a problem. And one of them that's a big deal on that is Joe Rogan. I'd love to have the audience he's got. Massive. Nobody's got an audience like him. And he's doing his best to try to be neutral. But boy, he went off on our little buddy, Gavin Newsom. Watch this. This is classic.
This is the best place in the world. Everyone's going to come here no matter what.
Right.
That's the Gavin Newsom attitude whenever he defends California.
Right.
Talks about how great the GDP is. We're the fifth. We would be the fifth largest economic.
Yeah.
He starts rattling off all these wonderful statistics, and this is like, instead of acknowledging, we've got real problems. People are moving for the first time ever more than they're coming here.
Right.
We're losing all these giant corporations that are instead of that, it's just this no one's doesn't matter. I'm very big on California. I'm bullish on California.
Right.
It's always going to be amazing here.
Well, it's what every empire said until they fell.
How many times have I said that? It's amazing till it falls. You look at Cuba, because we're so close to it, 90 miles away. And you think about what Cuba was back in the 50s. It was a thriving vacation. I mean, it was the Gold Coast vacation. You left the United States and you went to Cuba because of all of the things that were there. That was a big deal. A big deal. And that continued on, and everybody was living there and living the life and had all the things. And then communism came in. Russia pushed it. They put in Castro, and you watched the country just go in the trash. Venezuela, same thing with Venezuela. Venezuela was the capitalist country of the Central America, really of the world. Rich, healthy, successful, and then socialism began, and everything went in the toilet. I mean, the evidence is all of the people that's coming from Europe, that's coming for the World Cup, that are blown away. I've got a soda here, and when it's empty, I just can go and just get that refill, and they don't charge me anything for it. And I can look at this food. I've never seen this food. Oh, wow, this is cool. Everybody's blown away by that. And the reason it's free is not because of socialism. It's because capitalism has made it possible for them to make enough money to be able to offer that kind of a refill. Yes, it's expensive here. There's no question about it. Go to London, a socialist country. Go to London and you tell me that it's not as expensive as it is in the United States. It's way more expensive than New York. It is brutally expensive. You can't afford to live in London. So that socialism belief always falls on its face, always. So speaking of falling on your face, he's lasted for a long time. My buddy Bernie Sanders. Bernie just all the time, and telling everybody oligarchy, oligarchy, oligarchy. Well, watch this interview with Brett Baer, and you'll understand what I'm saying.
You've gotten criticized from other people. Free Beacon says Bernie Sanders spent $221,000 on private jets fighting the oligarchy tour paid for by friends of Bernie Sanders. That you've spent millions of dollars in campaign funds on private jet travel over the years. How do you push back on both of those things?
When's the last time you saw Donald Trump during a campaign mode at National Airport?
No. It doesn't. But he's also not fighting the oligarchy.
No. You run a campaign and you do 3 or 4 or 5 rallies in a week. The only way you can get around to talk to 30,000 people. Think I'm going to be sitting on a waiting line at United, waiting, 30,000 people are waiting? That's the only way you can get around. No apologies for that. That's what campaign travel is about. We've done it in the past. We're going to do it in the future.
He said. I cut that off. Sorry. Yes. Well, he's going to do it, and he's going to keep doing it. He's going to continue doing it, and he's not going to stop doing it because he is Bernie Sanders. And he's so important that he has to travel all over the place. If he were in his own state, in his own little independent state that he lives in, campaigning, that'd be one thing. but he's going all over the country and he's flying private jets. Now, I wouldn't even have a problem with it. He mentions Trump, and Trump's got his own jet. Yeah, but he doesn't fight the oligarchy. This guy is saying you shouldn't be doing anything. Stop spending money because we'll give you everything and we're going to get rich and everybody's going to be happy. I'm telling you, the hypocrisy of this, the loss of belief in a guy like that with people that pay attention, that would listen to Bret Baier say, yeah, but he isn't fighting oligarchy. And Bernie just goes on. He doesn't care. He's going to push it. He's going to do all of the stuff he always does. He's going to point at you and tell you you're a terrible person. He's a socialist communist. His wedding trip that he did when he got married, he went to Russia, and he's been to China, and it says both of them are spectacular. They're wonderful. There's no problem there. Well, because he's talking to the big people that have got the money and the cars and all of the stuff, and he doesn't bother looking. I mean, I went on the subway from Hong Kong through Kowloon up to Lyon, which was at the time, this was the time we were there before China took over Hong Kong. And we went up to Lyon, which is right on the border of what was free China and what was communist China. And it was part of that whole Hong Kong Kowloon area. And I got up there, we got up there and saw what was third world country big time, which was the same as, and they told us it was much worse over in China, in communist China, much worse. I mean, there was a zoo there where all the animals were dying. There was almost nothing there. And you go to China, you fly into Beijing or any place, you look at the skies. The air quality is awful. And we talk about we can't have SUVs and all that stuff. Go to China and take a look at what's going on there. It's not good. But our little oligarchy fighter, Bernie Sanders, he's good with it. So watch this. This was his story after the three ladies won in New York City.
So let me give you the good news. The good news is that last night in New York City, progressives won 3 congressional seats. They beat incumbents. People in New York City are saying they're sick and tired of status quo politics. They want a government that represents everybody and not just the billionaire class. And actually what happened in New York City took place after we have won major victories in New Jersey, California, Montana, and elsewhere. So what is going on all over this country is progressives are on the march. And I was just before I left the office, I saw Fox Television in their headlines, "The end of the world is coming. Progressives are winning elections. Socialism is taking over the world." Real panic.
Yeah, real panic. What?
I told the guys on the boat, don't screw this up when we get there. Those guys that later were known as Democrats screwed up a good thing. I'll probably have my teeth knocked out for saying this.
Yeah. I forgot I dropped that in. But he's right. Don't screw this up. And they keep screwing it up. It's constant, unending. Keep pushing and pushing and pushing and screwing this thing up. And the Democrats are going to take over the Senate and the House, and they're going to impeach Trump, and they're going to stop everything, and they're going to raise your taxes because we're going to take power. We are going to take power. Trust me. That's what they're saying. And Bernie's worried. I can tell you that. You can almost see it in his eyes. He's looking at this and he's going, we're winning, but we're going to lose. I can hear him. We're winning, but we're going to lose. I can't do his spiel. But he's worried because he knows maybe we've gone too far too soon. They need to slow down. I don't want to give them advice, but if they want to win this on the long case, they're not going to do it by the way they're doing it. And that's the point. It isn't as easy as you think it is to turn a country like ours upside down. Sorry. You can't do that. So here we are in a spot where they're worried they may have pushed too far, they being the real true socialist communists. The Democrats that are not quite that crazy, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and the gang, they're worried about losing power. And the Republicans have the chance of a lifetime to keep their power through the midterms. Look at this. This is the prediction about what could happen in the Senate.
Any path to taking the Senate goes through Maine.
Yeah.
So what are we seeing about the chances of taking the Senate right now?
Yeah, if you take a look, the chance of getting the Senate right now, you go back 2 months ago, it was about a 50-50 split, right? Now Republicans, again, it's close, but Republicans are now slightly favored to take back the Senate, no doubt in part because of what is going on in Maine, which just makes that path, which is already difficult, a little bit more treacherous.
This feels like a Plattner tax. Right
Yeah,
now.
this is a Plattner tax. That's what they're saying. But think about this. This is a case of, first of all, the 14-point lead by the Republicans against the Democrats in the Senate based on these polls. 14 points. It's a long time away. I get that. But 14 points is a big deal. And why is that? Because they know you can't trust the Democrats. I'm not saying they're all bad people. That's not the case. What they are and what is the problem is that not only do they have this push going on with the liberals and the socialists and the communists, but they also have all of the other underwriting crazies like voter ID. Can't have that. Nobody can get ID. It's impossible to get a legal ID. I'm tempted to go take one of my cameras and go to a liquor store and, just go down in the city where we'll call it are not the wealthy people, which is where a lot of the liquor stores are, and just be standing there and say, do you have ID to be able to go in there and buy? Yeah. How did you get that? How'd you get the ID? And do you know what they're going to say? I've always had ID. Well, but we're being told you can't get it, that, it's not possible. Nobody has ID. What would they say? They'd probably punch you out. That wouldn't be good for them. But the point is, that's where we are today, where they're getting that crazy. So let me show you this. We're going into 250, right? The celebration next week. I've got some plans for next week, share with you a little bit here before the end of the show. But 250 is coming up. They've already started. The fair is going on. The Ferris wheel's going. Everybody's having a good time. And then you have a lunatic that's got an idea, and I'm going to share with you all of the things of why this won't work. But this is somebody that's getting traction with this idea. Watch this.
It's time for the bank run, y'all. Prepare yourself. Start moving your money, whether it's digitally, physically, what have you, to a credit union that is not owned by billionaires but owned by the community. Leave a tiny little bit left in the big bank. On July 4th, we're all going to take that money that we a little bit left out at the same time. It's going to trigger an FDI freeze, i.e. a banking system collapse, i.e. rich people's assets will lose value, i.e. their stocks will lose value. This is one of the ways we can crush the billionaire. Check out Blackout the System if you want more information. If you want to stop paying federal taxes, check out War Tax Resistor and the videos I have and the links in my resources. Let's do it, y'all.
Yeah, this is prime meat. First of all, let me help you out here. So those people she's talking to have $112 in their bank account. That's number one. Very few have a lot of money in their bank account or their savings or whatever. Very few. They may have it in 401ks, but nobody's going to mess with their 401k. Nobody's going to take their investments out of their investments. For what purpose? So she's saying, take it out, except for a little bit, and then on the 4th of July, pull it all out. Number one, when is the 4th of July? I meant to pull up a calendar, have it for a screen share, and I forgot to do that. When is that? It's Saturday. No transaction will occur till Monday. That's number one. Number two, the amount of money that they would pull out of these banks, because it's such an itty-bitty little group of people, it would mean nothing. But she's smart enough to be able to tell people, hey, we're going to crush the banks. We're going to kill them. We're going to take Wells Fargo and PNC and Bank of America, and we're going to crush them, and we're going to take power. That's it. We're good. Thanks. Bye. I almost want to play that again just because it's so stupid. But that's where they are with this. I don't know. Can somebody tell me how they think this way? I know what the answer is. They think this way because they don't know any better. If you had 20 million people that took out $2,000 each on the same day, it's not going to crush the banks. The FDIC isn't going to go into a panic. They would know exactly what happened. And yes, it would all be in the credit unions, maybe. Good for the credit unions. I can't stand Wells Fargo. Every time I go in there, hey, hi, what you got planned for the weekend? It's none of your business. But that's another story all in itself. But they have all the resources. They have everything you need. You can get whatever you need to do done there. But they can't stand it. So what can I tell you? Here we are, though. We've got people that are crazy with this. We got the socialist communist group. We've got the Bernie Sanders, oligarchy process. And then you've got the people that are being arrested and incarcerated and then sent to their countries. And now, after the Supreme Court, they don't even have to send them to the country they came from. I mean, they will, except for the ones that won't take them back because they're bad people. So there's an uproar about people that are going to be sentenced that are actually terrorists that attacked the Texas Ice Center. Watch this.
These are some of the sentences for the members of this group. 8 of them getting a combined total of more than 450 years in prison. That includes Benjamin Song, you see, who got a 100-year sentence. He's the one who was convicted of shooting an Alvarado, Texas police officer in the neck as he responded to the scene as they were doing this riot at the Texas Ice facility. Carrie, this is sending a very, very strong message.
A very strong message, and it was a very thorough process. It was a 12-day trial, 46 witnesses, over 200 exhibits, and all of these people were convicted by a jury of their peers. And if you look into the details, because, at first glance, the sentences are they're pretty significant. And I think partly, and that's because some of the sentencing was enhanced by this domestic terrorist charge. And so I looked into the details, and it's pretty bad. These people they cloaked themselves in black, they put on black masks, they threw explosives at this detention center. When an officer arrived, they said, get the rifles. They started shooting. It's actually a miracle that more people didn't die. This was a very organized, planned attack against a detention center led by people who possess an ideology that's just generally anti-government. So, yes, Bill, to answer your question or to affirm what you said, this does send a very strong message, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and this is an example of what we're looking at people that are having a problem with people being put into prison for things that they've done that's bad. And that's why I keep saying, vote, vote, vote. You've got to vote. Now, you have to legally vote. You have to be a legal citizen. And I want to break away a little bit from the whole story here. I had something I pulled up because I said something yesterday that wasn't accurate. And I always clarify my inaccuracy if I have one. And I said that the law to be a citizen of the United States to vote was in the Constitution. It is not. I said that, and I was wrong. I knew it was wrong. After I finished the show, I was thinking to myself, that isn't right. It's an overview. It's an 18 U.S. Code 611. And this establishes that it is illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. This law is crucial for maintaining the integrity of the electoral process in the United States. It's only for federal, by the way. President, Vice President, members of the Senate, members of the House of Representatives. Penalties for the violation is fines, imprisonment up to 1 year. Prohibits non-citizens from voting in federal elections. There are specific conditions under which non-citizens may vote in state or local elections, and that's elections for other issues and positions. State and local laws allow non-citizens to vote on these issues, and voting for federal offices is conducted separately from voting on those other issues, which is a little shaky. Non-citizens voting has been illegal in federal elections since 1924, with that law being reinforced by the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996. The law underscores the importance of ensuring that only eligible citizens participate in federal elections, thereby preserving the democratic process in the United States. So what does that really mean? Well, it means, what are the historical reasons for prohibiting non-citizens? Historically, non-citizens were allowed to vote in many states until early in the 20th century, but growing anti-immigrant sentiments and concerns about the integrity of elections led to series of constitutional amendments and laws that prohibited non-citizens voting. By 1924, all states had banned non-citizen voting in federal elections, influenced by fears, listen to this, fears of foreign influence and the desire to establish more homogeneous electorate. So that, I said it was Constitution. It's a federal law. It's not in the Constitution. The point is, it's still a law, and that's why they have it. So, as I always say, get over it. Get an ID, and you can vote. Final story. Rubio talking about the straight. I want you to see this, the talk about fees and everything else. This guy is strong as hog's breath.
Okay, if you're paying someone to go there, I don't care if you call it a fee or a toll or a donation. It's a toll. That's how we're going to define it. That's international waterway. There isn't a nation on earth that supports having to pay money to go through the straits. And think about it this way. If you have, first, it's not even workable. Let's suppose that we went crazy and lost our minds completely and decided to agree to have a tolling or a fee mechanism. How would that work? It's not doable, because what's the consequence for not paying? Let's say a ship says, well, I'm not going to pay the fee. It's not like a toll on a road. You don't get a ticket in the mail. They get shot at. You shoot at one ship, you sink one ship, no other ship is going to move. So that sort of system is not only unwise, it can't happen, it's not even workable. So you might as well abandon the fantasy now. So I think we've been clear. You can call it a fee, you can call it a toll, call it whatever you want. If you are charging money to use the straits, we won't support it.
We won't support it. That's it. Bada boom, bada bing. Bada bing, bada boom. I always get those two back mixed up. It's dyslexia. He is strong. Trump is strong. This thing with Iran, became a worse situation when the Dems and some of our own Republicans voted on the War Act and tried to stop Trump from saying, we got to take everybody out and stop the war. Come on. That's just stupid. stop the war that's been going on for 47 years when we've actually made progress for the first time in 47 years, which somebody that's willing to get the job done after 47 years? I mean, not even Reagan was willing to do that because of how difficult it is. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. So, finally, I want to tell you, next week, I'm going to try to do some stuff a little different with the show. And a lot of people that watch this show know that I'm into history big time. And I keep track of things and understand things differently because I know what happened before. And if you don't know history, it's going to happen again. You gotta get it. So we're going to do some historical events that happened since the 1770s, 1700s. We won't go clear back to 1492, but we're going to take a look at some, and we're not going to spend every hour of the week doing that. But I want to bring some things forward to understand how the fabric of America got started and how we got where we are and what will happen from this point on. I think that's fair questions. So we'll have that and we'll continue with the show and things that are going on. And who knows what's going to pop up between now and Monday. I mean, the weekends used to be pretty boring and slow. They're not that way anymore. So we'll go from there. Have yourself a great weekend. Cook some steaks out on the grill. Have a good time. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy your life. Enjoy things. Be with your family. We could begin our real celebration for 250 on Monday right here on Framers View with Neil Frame. Until then, have a good one and rock on.
Thanks for your support. Join the Framers View Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for your support. Join the Framers View Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern.